All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you haven't had a seat, if you could find one, please, at 6:32 on November the 20th, Monday, regular meeting. And if you would join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. That I agree with. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you for joining us. Definitely a little cooler out there, and we've got a large crowd tonight, relatively speaking here. Before we get to the warrants here, I'm looking for a motion, if we could, to just amend the agenda to add Northwest Regional Planning update from Catherine Dimitruk. We can do that either before or after the police budget talk. So second. Okay, well, we can decide which order after. All in favor?
Aye.
I thank you. You guys want to do it before? Sean, what you want to do it before we get to the police budget?
Yeah.
Okay, if that's all right. Okay, so we'll slide that one in. So next we got the warrant. So if we could do the payroll warrants, Jeff, you don't.
Sure. I have two payroll warrants. The first is for the week of October 30th through November 5th, dated November 9th, and that's in the amount of $24,323.49. And I have the second payroll warrant dated November 6th through November 12th of 2023, dated November 17th. And that's in the amount of $23,339.52. These are just our standard payroll, so I would make a motion that we pass these warrants.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see. Jonathan, if you do the general fund warrant, please.
Okay. I have the general fund warrant dated November 17th, 2023, in the amount of $140,528.26. Biggest ticket item on here is the health insurance as usual for $25,000. And other than that, fireworks for $12,500. So I make a motion, we approve this warrant.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And Brendan, the hodgepodge here, please.
I've got a normal industrial park warrant with the same 3 Green Mountain Power invoices, nothing crazy this month. November 20th, 2023, industrial park account, $803.38. Make a motion to approve.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Questions? No? All in favor?
Aye. Okay, I have a warrant for our ARPA fund account. We've got just under $10,000 to WB Mason for a plat printer. What's that? A plotter. Okay. So that was $9,995. Then I have a slew of expenses totaling $31,275, all related to the town purchasing a small piece of property near a home that we just purchased on the corner there in the bay, and that's all us using federal funds to acquire land to make an actual traffic device that'll solve that 5-way mess hodgepodge of an intersection possible. And the only way to really fix that in our mind is probably a roundabout, and we lack the interstate to do that. So when that home came up on the market, we decided to use ARPA money to negotiate a purchase. And this adjacent piece of property would be valuable to our village planning that we're about to undertake, and I'm sure we'll find a good use for it. So ARPA fund account, November 20th, 2023, $41,270, and make a motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Jen, for the record, I abstain from voting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, stormwater utility, we've got 3 invoices, one from Aldrich and Elliott for a small amount of money related to planning the Clyde Allen Drive stormwater project. Then we have EIB, the engineering firm that's been working with Dave to help run the stormwater utility the past, 13 odd months, 14 odd months. And then an invoice related to paving over the top of a culvert that we replaced as part of a grant project on, I want to say Lord Road. Yeah, Lord Road. So stormwater utility warrant, all normal expenses, November 20th, 2023, $10,810.56. Make a motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And is that it for the warrants, Brendan?
You got it.
Thank you. So next up, we've got the minutes and let me see, we've got, first of all, the regular select board meeting minutes of November 6th. Just one small thing. Sorry, I didn't notice it before, Jen, just under the section under public comment. There's some extra words in there about not about Mr. Bray, sorry. Mr. Bray came before the board, and then there's some extra words in there where it doesn't make sense. We can just clean that up a little bit. He came to talk about the stormwater and VFA. It's the only change I have. If there are no other changes, I'd take a motion to accept those minutes with that one small change.
So,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then we also had the special meeting of November 13th to discuss the budget process. And I saw no changes there, so take a motion to accept those minutes.
so moved.
Thank you. Jack, I think,
I'll second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we do have public comment. If anyone in public would like to make public comment, we'll check on Zoom if there's no one there. Yep, please come on. If you come up, use our microphone. Jen would appreciate it more than anyone else. Thank you, Pat.
My name is Pat Vincent and I called Sean over whatever sounded like guns going off. But I guess it was something that Chuck's doing to scare away the geese and the birds.
I believe it's a type of a cannon thing.
Yeah. It's still going off today. But I would appreciate it if somebody could speak to him or find out if it's even legal, because it's driving the dogs and the cats in the neighborhood crazy. And all they're doing is barking and they're scared. A lot of dogs don't like guns. And something needs to be done about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Just looking at some.
Come up to the microphone.
The second, and third. We agree.
We agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Same-
There's
same
other
message.
methods than this cane.
Okay. Any other public comments? That issue or any other issues?
Can I ask a quick question?
Come on up. Yeah, please.
See, I told you should just gave up.
What's going on with town hall? The other town hall, old town hall.
We have any other updates, Sean?
I believe we're moving on to offload it.
So there's been an offer for it or?
No, we talked to quite a few folks because we were kicking tires on renovating it ourselves, but we're just gonna be offloading it. So the conversations are
Offloading it?
selling it.
Selling.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I thought you could put something on that people had to put proposals in.
We did.
By
Cool.
September.
correct. Yeah. And then we extended the deadline because we didn't get any proposals.
And you had any proposals sent?
No. No, yeah. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Mhm.
Any other public comments? No, any public comment? I don't know if we have any from the public up there. Amanda? No public comments there. All right, we'll skip down next. If Catherine, if you want to come up.
Great.
Give us an update on Northwest Regional Planning, please.
Thanks for having me here today. For those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Catherine Miltrick and I'm the executive director of Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And it's been a while since I've had to come to a select board meeting for anything, so I thought it would be good to just come and say hello and check in and let you know what we've been working on at regional planning and just check in and make sure that we're serving you in the best way possible for the needs of the client.
Catherine, move the microphone closer to you, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that better, Jen?
Yes, thank you very much.
So if you're not familiar with Northwest Regional Planning Commission, we're one of 11 regional planning commissions in the state. And we're really the resources for municipalities. We do work in emergency management, transportation, land use, brownfields cleanup, water quality projects, a whole host of things. And even though planning is in our name, we actually just do a lot of projects. So we develop projects, we help towns manage projects, we manage projects on our own. And we are fortunate to have in the room several past board members. So it's nice to see them here. You are currently ably represented by two board members, Megan Sherland and Marietta Schulten are your two board members. And they're great, very active, and we really appreciate having them on the board. Every municipality in the region gets to appoint two members to the board, so we have a pretty big board if everybody shows up. We also have Dave Allerton, who serves as the Transportation Advisory Committee member, and he also has been a great addition to the TAC. And then Al, even though he's retired as a regional commissioner, serves as the chair of our Regional Energy Committee, so we pulled him back into service, so it's great.
We do too.
I see. In terms of projects we've worked on for the town, I just wanted to highlight a few of them. One is that we help you meet your outreach and education requirements under the MS4 permit. And so we do outreach and education in conjunction with some city projects as well. And one great example we did was we organized the storytelling project in the Bay Park last summer. That was actually really well attended and was a really fun event. We do basic things like traffic counts too. So we did traffic counts on a host of roads such as Alair Drive, Cedar Hill Drive, Samantha Lane, Ridgeview Avenue. We work with you on town plan and zoning, and we worked with you most recently on the bylaw modernization project, and we were really pleased about that project and thought it went really well on our end. Hope you felt the same way. And as part of that, we owe you a thank you because the town was the host for that grant that enabled 4 other municipalities to also participate. So we appreciate the town's willingness to do that. In terms of what's coming up, we have a few things. One is that we work with the Department of Environmental Conservation to manage the clean water funding that comes into the region. And we've been working with Megan to see if there's any projects that we can help the town with. Additionally, the town applied for and was selected to do a TOD project, or it's called Transit Oriented Development. So we'll be working with, it's a grant that actually Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission got for the whole valley of Lake Champlain. And we'll be working with the town and a consultant to look at where in town are good places for higher density development that can really help build your tax base, serve your community, and bring some vibrancy to places that are ready to be developed. So we're excited about that project. A few other things we work on that are under our umbrella that I just want to make sure you're aware of. Healthy Roots Collaborative is the area's food systems group, and they are under our umbrella. So they do things like healthcare CSAs, where folks who are of low income can sign up for free CSAs to just help improve their overall health. And we work with area farms to buy the produce and package the CSAs and deliver those. And we partner with CVOEO on a new facility in Sheldon where we can do a lot of food storage. And we also deliver food to all of the area food shelves as well. We are the host organization for the Working Communities Challenge, which is a 3-year project funded by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston and the state of Vermont. Our focus is trying to encourage housing development. So a lot of what we're working on is all tangentially related to that. And then we serve as the host organization for an economic development district that serves the 6 northern counties of Vermont. And that economic development district helps communities be eligible for economic development administration grants that help fund infrastructure. Like there has been a grant that went into the industrial park a few years ago, the same thing in Swanton. And then finally, we have a brownfields site assessment program. We've brought about, I'm gonna do the math here, about $6 million into the region to do brownfields assessments and cleanups. We haven't done one in the town lately. I guess you're kind of fortunate that you don't have a lot of potentially contaminated sites, but the one that I remember we worked on a lot was the radar base at the top of the hill and getting that assessed and potentially cleaned up. So if you have any projects that have any development constraints because of real or perceived contamination, we have money to help. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't want to take too much time because I know I was an add-on to your agenda, but I just wanted to take a moment to see if you had any questions or if there are things we could be or should be doing for the town that we're not doing.
Any questions from anyone right now?
I guess like we talk about economic development, I notice a lot of growth in Milton, that kind of Route 7 corridor that they have.
Mhm.
You know, Pete's RV relocating. You know, it looks like Camping World's not coming to town. It looks like the property's been listed, so we're gonna lose out on that opportunity just because of an economic downturn and a change in that RV market.
Yeah.
What do we need to be doing differently as a town to try to attract some of that growth? I mean, we seem to be placed a little bit better. I would think, you know, geographically, we're closer to Plattsburgh, we're closer to Montreal. And yet, for whatever reason, Milton just seems to be eating our lunch as far as, you know, and I'll point to something that's stuck in my craw a little bit. Like Peerless Clothing is one of our anchor businesses in the industrial park, and they're building a new facility of some kind in Milton.
Mhm.
Like I like Don Turner, you know, we hired Dave Allerton from Milton, knowing that he was a sharp guy with a good system. I'm not trying to, if anything, it'd be friendly competition, but like, what is Franklin County or the town, you know, or FCIDC, what are we not doing that we should be doing to be able to compete for those opportunities?
So I think there's one thing you can't do, which you can't be any closer to Chittenden County than you are. You know, Milton has that. They are in Chittenden County and they're closer. And you can't change that. That's the reality. If I can be frank, there's two things that Milton has been doing a lot in the past few years that I don't know that I think St. Albans Town isn't doing as much of. They are investing in infrastructure like sidewalks and parks to make the place, to make the community a more attractive place to be. And they have spent a lot of time on community building and diversity and equity work. I don't know if either of those enter into Peerless's decisions, but if I could compare the two communities, I think that's two differences that I see. And I know the town has been investing in infrastructure and has a lot of plans, so you're on the way. Just Milton got a little jump on you in that regard.
Are they using TIF financing at all that you're aware of?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to look at whatever their roadmap has been to develop that whole corridor and see what might apply to the park. And if you can collaborate with Sean to help roll some of that out, just, you know.
Yeah, I think they are using a tip.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Dave, he's familiar in how the infrastructure projects are being financed, like he should be able to help roll that out. And I know we only have him for a limited number of months now at this point, I think is my understanding. I mean, hopefully
I
not,
would
but,
say more than that, but yeah,
okay,
no, we don't have them for 10 years. So,
got it.
yeah.
So I just like, what do we have to do with utilizing the expertise that we've hired in-house now? Like,
I think you've positioned yourself really well to take advantage of upcoming opportunities.
and I just see like Al does a really nice job of communicating like the region's list of priorities that we put out every year. And I see a lot of stuff on there that like, I don't want to say it's misordered, but like cleaning up a brownfield under an apartment building in the city ranks higher than certain economic development initiatives. And I'm like, how do we go about voicing our concerns to try to close those gaps and try to make that seem like it's a little bit more important? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're talking about the project priority list that the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation puts in every year, I think really contacting Tim or Elizabeth at that office is the way to really understand their process and I think making sure they have all the information they need. They have this ranking system that's used statewide, and you get points on job creation and a bunch of other things. And so sometimes I'm with you. I look at the resulting list and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like how does like 6 apartments in Enosburg rank higher than trying to fill up the industrial park in some respects? You know, it's like, how do we, like try to find an equitable balance between, and I get it, every town gets too wraps on this, we're in regional planning together as equals, even though our grand lists are different. And our priorities aren't the same, like some towns want to be 80% conserved, we don't want to be more than the 22% conserved than we are right now, so just trying to strike a balance. But
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming, it's always nice to pick your brain.
you're welcome.
I would say site readiness, by the way.
That was
If I
gonna be
could-
my.
Yeah, if I could add that. Site readiness, I think would put us ahead of a lot of other localities and.
So we can kind of like work together and figure out what we're lacking and
Yeah.
maybe see what we need to invest to get to where we're.
Yeah.
I know we're
could
like
have that
divvying up
conversation right
ARPA
now.
and we have a chunk that we're gonna set aside for infrastructure.
Mhm.
I don't know if that can be used as a catalyst for TIF or other funding to, if we were gonna put, say in round numbers, $500,000 out into infrastructure. If you showed me a TIF district that made sense, that like was only over the industrial park and part of our Route 7 corridor. And you had kind of a plan to develop those into industrial lots, like. It's no secret, our tax rate's low because of the industrial development that we have and for no other reason. So whatever we can do to continue that, our expenses grow every year, so
Mhm.
gotta grow that sector of our grand list.
Yeah, and and that's a choice the town has made to keep the tax rate really low. And I think your citizens appreciate it. But there is consequences in terms of the budget flexibility that you end up with as a result of that. And so it's balancing those and trying to figure out the best balance to be able to do things like have site-ready projects and have things done in advance of a company that wants to come.
Would it be worth, like, maybe you, Al and Dave sitting down and discussing, like, maybe Tim too, and seeing what we have in the park? And, I know Pat Malone has some commercial lots that might have some industrial capabilities in Franklin Park and around Energizer. Like, what do we do to kind of, I know you're in a lot of circles in Montpelier and, your voice carries a lot further than a lot of other people. So whatever we can do to develop a plan to help grow the industrial commercial side of our grand list, and then make sure that you're able to help us capture grant dollars and anything else that we could.
I'd be happy to sit down anytime. And there, if you've got some great infrastructure opportunities, there could be some federal funding through Economic Development Administration that we can take advantage of. They're always looking for projects in Vermont. We're pretty undersubscribed versus other states, so.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions at this time?
Yeah, well, got any thoughts on how we can get some more money for our stormwater project?
Well, I know that the town's applying for a few grants,
Mhm.
so that's good. You've got your utility.
Mhm.
Um,
But there's some controversy surrounding that lately.
I've heard there might be. Yeah,
We're kind of hoping the state can pony up a little more since it's all their idea on what needs to be done.
I don't see that happening, quite honestly.
That's not good news.
Yeah, I mean, if I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna pretend I think it will happen. I don't think it will. The only thing that there's maybe some hope for, because it's happened in a few instances, is right now for some state grant programs, the MS4 match is higher than non-MS4 communities. And if I were to recommend any potential for change, it would be in that area, that you might be able to get some movement there. But I don't think the state is thinking about paying for MS4 projects.
Not entirely. Oh, I don't think we're expecting that. We'd all love it, but,
Half.
yeah, well, I mean, I would say the conversations are being had, right now, so it's. If it's one at a time, it's gonna be. Hopefully take baby steps, but get it shared, yeah.
And keep asking the question.
Hmm.
But I think, in my experience, the state is willing to step in when municipalities are willing to step up. And so it has to be a partnership. It can't be, we're done, so you need to come and do it. That doesn't usually meet with successful response from the state officials.
I mean, the Clyde Allen project, we got the vast majority of that funded through the grant, so.
Mhm. And you're doing a few more applications for some culvert projects
Yeah.
and the potential and the stormwater detention on Sash, so.
Yeah.
There's definitely some opportunities.
Got a lot of grants out there.
Yeah, so
yeah.
that, so your staff are really doing a nice service for you, taking advantage of the opportunities.
Anything else for now? Question, Paul?
Yeah, just sure. I don't know who's on the board, on the regional planning commission board for the town. Are one of you members?
Megan Sherlin and.
No, I ask you, are you one of you guys on board?
No, it's Megan Sherlin and who's the other person you mentioned?
Marietta.
Marietta.
So none of you guys are on the board?
No.
Are any of the planning commission members on the board?
No, the director of our planning and zoning community development department is.
Is, okay. But there was a time when a planning, this guy, a planning commission member and a board member were on that board. And you ask questions that if you have somebody there, you know the answers and you'd be able to influence the changes or what you might need. And I think you may be cutting ourselves short by an elected member, and then if we have an employee, paid representative that does that, should be on that board. That's what board members do.
You kind of get a freebie because Sarah is
Yeah.
on the board representing the town of Fairfax.
Yeah.
We've had Al on for a
Yeah.
long time too.
Well, to your question, you probably couldn't get a better person than Megan. She's extremely educated, to planning.
She's our employee, right?
She's our employee.
That's.
And
that's
she
work
bring-
for Sean.
She brings,
Good.
she brings everything back to Sean and to the select board.
Yeah, she's excellent.
It's always better when you guys are on the boards. Because when you sit on those boards and you say something, you have to, you're representing the town. And that's why it's important for an elected person to be there. Or a paid person who has responsibility to the manager or the manager. Because the person who's there can't be somebody that just sits there and listens and really can't speak because they don't have the authority to speak for the town. Something to think about.
Thank you, Paul. I think we're all set then.
Great,
Catherine.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate you coming down.
I'm happy to be here. It's nice seeing all of you and follow up with us about the intersection. So excited about that. Right.
Fairly new. All right, so next we'll move to, really get the city and town police budget. And we did ask Police Chief Lamoth and Lieutenant Kuchar to come down, if you wouldn't mind stepping up here. Which we've now had two joint police board meetings. We had one last week as well. After the first one, we came back and we talked here a little bit about a few different issues, and John and myself took what we had discussed and put a letter together to the city, and they responded with a lot of documents to that. Part of it was about the dispatch department, which we spent, I think, the majority of our time at our last police board meeting talking about. We also talked a little bit about the different insurances that were taken from the general city budget and moved to the police budget, and some of the documents that they supported that with were liability insurances that actually lists what part has always been the police. So it's always been broken out. It wasn't just one general. And so I did ask the chief to come down to talk mostly, though, we can ask any of those issues too, but mostly about street crimes unit, which has also been, a topic to really discuss. It's been, I don't know if it's just because it's been brought up, so it's kind of like if you buy a yellow car and you drive around, you see a lot of yellow cars all of a sudden that maybe you didn't see before. But it seems like since we've been discussing the street crimes unit or the police budget in general, there's been a lot in the newspapers regarding certainly drug crimes. Just seeing things last week, whatever it was last weekend, 2 weekends ago down in Burlington with 2 murders, people lighting fires inside the police station or attempting to. articles in the paper regarding obviously the St. Albans police discussions, but also the ones that they're having in Swanton as well, that seems to be along the same lines. You did give us some data from 2018 and 2019 when there was a street crimes unit, and then 2022 and year-to-date 2023 without one. And I think I shared that with everyone as well. So do you guys want to have any comments first, and then I'll certainly have folks ask you some questions.
Yeah, questions might be the best thing, but just to give you a little insight why Lieutenant Kuchar is here too, but he's the longest standing member of the PD, having been here for 24 years. He's been around when the PD had the town and when we didn't have the town.
And so the point, and both of your town residents as well.
I am no
you're
longer town
not,
resident, but I'm
okay.
just out of it by about a mile.
Yeah.
Like most of my family is, and most of my life has been in the town.
Okay.
Lieutenant Kuchar is actually one that had kept track of those stats at the time when I sent you the email saying that Gary Taylor had, it was actually Lieutenant Kuchar that did those stats back in that time frame. He's also been a member of the task force, drug task force, the VSP task force for what, 10 years? Yeah. And he runs dispatch right now. So he's multifaceted for the questions for tonight. But I guess I can't sum up the need for street crimes in my mind as much as a great example of the last 24 hours. So we had the shooting in Colchester yesterday. They lived in St. Albans.
Yeah.
We ended up stopping the car last night as they were making their way back to St. Albans. Today we are doing our Stuff a Cruiser event, which is what we do every year for Martha's Kitchen. A gentleman came in today, you know, everybody's bringing turkeys. We made a point of having Lieutenant or myself go out and meet with people who are donating food. And a gentleman came today, was like, hey, you got a minute so I can talk to you about a couple issues I have. Both of them were in the town, drug sales happening in the town. And it's the same complaint we get almost daily for mostly parking lots, you know, and it's everywhere. And we know that. And the way we're dealing with them when they come in is we try to get up there with marked units, but we're not getting a lot of proactive work. When you get there with marked unit, whatever's going on is no longer going on. But these complaints or concerns used to come in, you know, a couple times a month to a couple times a week. Now they're coming in every single day. And it's not just happening in the city. It's not just happening in town, but it's all around us. And a majority of, and I don't say majority, a lot of the shooting incidents that are happening all around our area, from Burlington all the way down to Washington County, have ties to St. Albans. And it's odd. We talk about all the time. I can give you 5 houses or 5 areas in the city, and 1 in the town, that a lot of these incidents, the names go back there. And we don't have any proactive work going into those right now. And that's not good. It's sad, actually. And we would like to be able to get some work into those proactively and get some undercover people there watching and stuff and surveilling it. Try to get ahead of it a little bit the best we can. And I think the stats, I had no idea that they kept stats. This is before my time. I've only been in this position since 2020. So having the stats compare that Lieutenant Kuchar compiled was eye-opening to me, and I hope it was to you as well. But 100 more arrests per year when we had street crimes to what we have now is pretty amazing. And that's not talking about the 500 plus cases they investigated each year. Those aren't happening right now at that rate. And the whole state is seeing it. When COVID came, proactive police work went down. And we are now paying that price, quite honestly. That's a big part of it.
And I'm just reading off those numbers. So 2018 was 104 drug arrests. 2019 was 118. That was with the street crimes.
Those are just street crimes.
Just okay. And so what exactly? Maybe Lieutenant Kuchar can answer that. 2022 there's 8. 2023 there's 19. I mean, those are obviously from a street crime.
No, those are arrests we made.
Those
just
are
with uniform officers.
Yeah. Good. And how many of those are proactive versus reactive? Are they all reactive, or are some of those proactive?
I would say the majority of them would probably be reactive. I don't have a set number for that. I can tell you in 2018, 2019, those were all proactive. Those were 2 officers actively going on making contact with whether the citizens in the town or in the city, and the larger degrees, and further our style, whether it be a retail theft that they assist an officers on, because a lot of the low level crimes that get committed having it.
Can you talk a little bit about how the street crimes unit functioned and worked, and if it would, and how it would work now? Would you try to mirror exactly what it did, or are there differences you'd make? But what, you know, if we had a street crimes unit, if we do that next year, can you talk a little bit about what those two folks would be doing? And kind of how they would do it? Yep.
Yeah, so. I felt that at least in 2018, 2019, when they were running, they were very successful. So there were a proactive team, that would focus on areas of concern for complaints from citizens, whether they would do surveillance. We set up some type of, not necessarily sting operation, but we would watch the place, try to stop the cars, and then see what we can do to see what we can develop to get into the house or to possibly follow. They also ran sale cases, which I oversaw, where the tenants went to the house, actually made purchases, and then came back. The majority of those sale cases were short cases, or short term. They weren't long term, so they did not last several months, 6 months, a year. There were short-term case, and then usually we ended it with some type of arrest or a search warrant at the house.
That's one of the differences from the Vermont task force, which he was involved in
Yeah.
like 10 years. Their cases typically run longer. Nothing wrong with that. They just tend to get more buys before they make an arrest. In those cases, in my experience, and he has a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
You're talking 12 to 18 months typically for arrest.
You know, did you track through to see of the arrests, how many resulted in any kind of a conviction for the crime? Through the court system?
No.
That's typically not anything we do at any arrest level. Cause it's not, once it's there, it's out of our hands, if we get bogged down with that, it's just another level we don't need to be concerned with. We send it up to the courts, and the state's turning in the courts, and they do with it what they do with it.
You have a direct line with the state's attorney's office,
Yes.
so like. You're constantly pitching, you know, prosecutions, and if they don't come down as the right charges, or maybe they're pled out, or. What is it? Is it a function of the jails being too full? Is it a function of too many people like Sarah George out there in the world?
It could be a lot of different things, you know, I mean, we have always had a very proactive, very good state attorney up here. We didn't do Dan and Boyd, both of them were very active and very aggressive. I think we had a decent conviction rate. That doesn't mean they're gonna get jail time though.
Well,
And that's historic in the state of Vermont. So I wouldn't say it's countywide or county. I don't think it's different per county. I think the state of Vermont is very lenient on crimes conviction.
So we're proposing to go to like unmarked and then ununiformed this go around versus marked and uniform. Like what?
For street crimes?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big part of it. A huge part of it.
so that's like my big disconnect, and I'm hoping Ben can bring me around, is like Chief Taylor came and said, you know, we often get, you know, picture a little old lady on one of the side streets calling and saying, I know they're dealing across the street from my house, you know, so-and-so moved out, they sold the house. Now there's people there 3 o'clock in the morning, every morning, I can't sleep. And he said, we don't really have somebody that, you know, we don't have a bunch of detectives, we don't have a bunch of cops that can be free to go do stuff like that. But it'd be really nice if within like 6 to 12 hours, we could have an officer go knock on the door and say, hey, get a report, you know, you might be dealing here, you might be participating in some illicit illegal activities, and we might not have enough to, you know, do anything more than knock on your door right now, but we're aware of it, and we're paying attention, and we'll be back. And the idea was uniformed officer, marked car, people would see it, maybe as they were going to make a buy, it would reverberate through the community that way, and like the, you know, people who are addicted would talk amongst each other. Maybe somebody, oftentimes he'd said that the people that he'd be having those interactions with at the door would be very low level, and the person maybe a rung or two above them in their organization chart, hard to think of it that way, these criminal activity rings. They'd move them to another community, which ended up being, yeah, find another apartment in Swanton, find a house for rent in Fairfield, and just tell everybody where you are. And the supply, where the supply goes, the demand follows. And he was very right in that respect. There were shootouts on First Street that we haven't
He
had
was
since.
absolutely right. When I was at the barracks, he was complaining all the time that street crowds are pushing everybody to shelter.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. What they were dealing with at that time.
So like, are we gonna see, and that's how I personally stomached it as being effective, like, we're not gonna get a conviction, the state's attorney's office is hamstrung for whatever reason. Jim Hughes at the time was doing everything he could, but he still couldn't try everybody. Judges seem to be way too lenient, especially for the first few times, like, just because it's somebody's first time getting charged in Vermont doesn't mean that they haven't been participating in that kind of activity their entire lives and poisoning communities everywhere they travel. But like, at least I know, like, somebody with a uniform is gonna go flash lights for a second, go knock on the door and say, hey, we'll be back. So whether or not you're here, that's up to you, but we're gonna be back.
Well, that's what this weekend specifically did that to houses with uniform. The problem we're having is nobody's coming to the door. They're yelling to the door, taking help. We're not scaring them. Those days are coming.
So they're figuring it
They're,
out.
what do they know? I mean, this is, we did that twice this weekend because they wouldn't leave this one residence alone as far as they're using a business parking lot. They're walking from their backyard into the business and deals all weekend long. All of it. And, so we weren't doing anything. We know you, we've got to stay out the problem. And,
They don't care.
you know, it's just, it's everywhere and, we know. But it would be nice if that worked and they could go, but as far as back to your earlier point, pushing them to another community that I've lived that.
Yeah.
For 5 years.
It worked.
Beat up the barracks, it worked big time.
I mean, I advocated for that funding every opportunity I got because it worked.
Highly successful pushing out. So I was at a get together this weekend in Swanton. They just push one of their bigger problems into our city.
Yeah.
So, it's all, that's what happens. You're not gonna end the drug dealers unless you get them in jail. They're just gonna keep moving. So,
How do you keep?
that's what
moving them?
we've got to keep the pressure on. A lot of them have been, a lot of them have no movement.
And it doesn't matter.
And as far as back to your point, we do our job the best we can to get arrests and enough for a conviction. Hopefully they get convicted, and a lot of them do. I mean, you run their 29C is what it's called, and that's criminal record check. And a lot of them have multiple convictions, just they're still out. Why? I don't know. I can't, I've been doing this 25 years.
So what's the purpose of convicting someone of a crime if there's no punishment?
That's a court's decision. I mean, our job is to get them back in front of the judge, and hopefully at some point it takes hold. But we can't just not let it go and put an effort forward as we do.
Right, no,
But I agree, it's frustrating, it can get frustrating, it's particularly frustrating for newer officers. We're at the stage, or I'm at the stage where do your job correctly the best you can, to get it to the next level and hopefully that conviction. It is frustrating, yes, it's frustrating that there's a lot of people running around with arrest warrants because they're out of jail and they haven't gone to court. It's that way, constant.
they don't even bother.
They don't allow them to, but we deal with it every single day. But that's, again, it's our job now is that we deal with that, we bring them back to court, bring them back to jail, that's our job.
So we still gotta, still to stay in it.
Before Ben like explains the new strategy with that ununiformed, like what? And I guess I'll address this, but is the point to still push people out or to build cases and get convictions? Or to mix of both?
Both.
I'd say a combination of both.
Ideally, yeah, ideally you put someone, get some arrests and convictions, but the rest of them are like, oh, this is a good place to be.
So I look at it from like a political perspective countywide that we've got an elected state's attorney. Well, now that elected one's gone, we got an appointed one. What is our role? Maybe it's not appropriate for you to say because you don't have a working relationship with them, but what's our role with calling that person on the carpet and saying, is it legal for you guys to share lists of referred cases with us? Like maybe with some redactions if need be, but like referred, dealing 3 pounds, whatever the charge is, referred charge over, had sufficient evidence to charge. Track it to see where the ball dropped, at least for a year or two, if we approve going forward with that extra funding for these two officers.
Bram, the meetings we've had, he's very eager to do drug work, wants to do drug work, so.
I'd be like,
That's why I'm impressed with what you said about drug work and sending the case down to him.
well, I'd like to see a societal shift in thinking around how we perceive police work as it goes to the courts, because you guys have done an excellent job the last 5-6 years of making sure everyone in the community understands like we're getting their arrests, they're not getting prosecuted. You see them in Chittenden County, their state's attorney flat out says they won't prosecute, and then she gets reelected for God knows why. But I just don't know, like, what's our role, and like, do other town leaders around the county do we have to get together and kind of come up with an effort to say like, okay, delegates to Montpelier, our delegation, we need you to fund more prisons. We need you to fund judiciary. Here's the data that says that. We as a community put way more into policing per capita than anybody else usually does in this rural part of the state. We're seeing results in the policing effort, but we're not seeing it on the other side, which I think is what your data will show if you track it for long enough to build a narrative. Like, how do we go about developing kind of a political apparatus to force the state to fund judiciary and prisons? Because at this point, I can't see any other outlet.
Yeah, it's interesting. All those points, the ones we hear, right? Prison gets full, of course, one's gonna be.
Yeah, so fund them.
People in the courts, judges, sometimes you hear that they feel that rehab is more effective than jail time. We hear all the same things, but again, our job is to do the best we can effectively to get people out.
Right.
For crime, so, I have to believe and trust that, the state attorney can do his job, and I believe Brandon is saying he can do it, as I thought that Jim did as well, so.
Well, Jim might have got something that he wanted to prosecute, but for whatever reason, he might have known that. And maybe if we talk to Bram, the new person, he'd be able to, maybe we could talk to Jim. I know he's still around. I see him at the golf course half a dozen
He
times
might
a
be
year.
the one talking because he's out now, you know?
I just don't know, like, it just seems like we do everything we can. Like, we paid the sheriffs for probably the largest amount of coverage that they provided in one town ever since they had our contract last. And just, we're not seeing prosecutions. Like, I'm not seeing, they kick down the door for the occasional stolen gun or something, but it's not like, there are dealer networks from other parts of the country that have infiltrated our town that are poisoning our kids, and we're not doing enough. And it's like,
It's frustrating, you know?
what do we do? Like,
We did the
there's gotta
warrant,
be something we can
we
do.
did the warrant in the city for 5 people, 4 more released, and they're now being held for homicide here. So it happens, that happened, recently. I mean, they were released the next day and they did a homicide right after.
So like, what do we?
It's frustrating,
Well,
you can't get bogged down in it, it's.
Let's go over to, gonna go over to Al.
Yes.
Get here,
Chief,
yeah.
Chief, is there technology that you can use, and I'm thinking now of hidden video cameras, and then could you put it on Facebook
For what are we talking about?
to identify,
For deal?
just identify the people in the drug houses, who's going in. who's
People are
going
doing that
out.
on their own. People are doing that on their own. That happened this weekend, as a matter of fact. I really don't want to use our Facebook for that. I really would rather not get into that shaming thing. I don't even put a lot of press releases out because the problem with the press releases kind of goes back to your point of non-convictions. We've had so many people get a hold of us in my short time in this position about, hey, I was arrested, I didn't get convicted. And now I can't get a job because I was arrested, but I never got convicted. So technically, you've got somebody on a post somewhere for an arrest that she never got convicted for. As much as I believe you had enough to arrest and be a probable cause, if they didn't convicted, you are now taking that person and putting them in, his name and her name is grouped, that's all that shows up for that arrest. And that's a problem in my mind.
I understand that, but
Yeah, I mean, you're doing whatever you can to try to find deterrence, and I think at one point Chief Taylor thought that the press release route was,
Absolutely.
I think that was him grasping
That's
at
one of the
whatever
biggest
straws he
problems.
had to just try to get somewhere. I think at the end of his career, he seemed very frustrated with the lack of judicial work. And
It is frustrating, but again, you do what you can, the best you can.
I'd say, I think you guys are doing that. Just another question. This probably happens to all of us, you see a headline somewhere and it's, St. Albans man arrested for drugs or whatever. And then I always think, I wonder if it's someone I know. And then when I look at it, it's always someone who's probably not from anywhere around here. Like, how many of all these drug arrests and the activity that's going on, do you have a feeling for how many of them are, say, locals or Vermonters versus outside of Vermont? Is it majority?
You're talking those 18, 19 numbers or these recent numbers?
Any of them, really. I mean, it's probably the same. Well, and maybe it's very different. I don't know.
I would say probably the majority of those would be Vermonters.
Like local folks. Okay. Okay.
And then there's, the minority of them would be people from out of state.
Out of state.
What you're thinking is probably what I'm assuming or suggesting you're thinking, a lot of the drugs come from out of that area.
Mhm.
They get here from people from out of the area, but the users and the people that are more in our face that we tend to come in contact with are from us.
Okay.
Those are the ones that have the connections in the community.
Right, those are the ones that are caught, they're doing the crime that get us into the world. They're the ones out there vandalizing, breaking stuff, stealing stuff right from everybody. Domestics, everything assault, everything that goes with the regular assault, regular cases we deal with. To get to the next level, dealer. That's where it'd be nice to have a unit that could actually work that and try to get to the next level.
Yeah.
But the low level users, which are the ones we typically end up running into more often.
Gotcha, yeah. And again, back to,
And they're low.
it's, and we've had, Brendan's asked some good questions, and so is Jeff on the prosecution. And I guess I just see whether they're being prosecuted or not, shouldn't necessarily, and it's just my opinion, shouldn't necessarily decide if we should fund a street crimes unit if people are gonna get arrested 3 or 4 times and then decide, it's just easier to move, go somewhere else. I mean, I feel like that's still somewhat effective anyway.
So if they get arrested, right? I mean, there's a process there. Typically, when somebody gets arrested, they don't, very rarely drop the case the first year. There's always it's always drawn out, which gives conditions to release, which might be curfew, might be whatever it is. That's where our subsequent arrests keep coming. That's where the pressure really kicks. Because they can't go anywhere, they can't parallel times, can't travel, anything, but whether there's an ultimate conviction, I think, for the original case, I don't know, a lot of times it gets put down because they've also now picked up multiple charges in between the first arrest and now trial because they've got conditions violations, that's not the other thing. So a lot of times you don't get a conviction of that first arrest, doesn't mean there wasn't a conviction of something resulting from the first arrest. I mean, it gets very confusing when you arrest somebody for any case and they've had 5 other arrests as a result of the conditions and they plead it down to one thing. That's not even, doesn't sound like an original arrest. It doesn't mean there wasn't a conviction. It's very complicated. Graham would be able to answer it much better than I can.
Yeah.
My experience over the years in explaining to newer officers, especially, like, they'll get frustrated too. Like, I arrested this guy for a girl for DUI 3, and they get convicted a year later, scares an operation or something. Like, yes, but they've also picked up all these other charges along the way. And
Yeah.
a win's a win's a win. You have to realize, this, but it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
It might not be what the original investment for.
I just see if we, if we can, if we have it, if we just keep just make it lower, make so that this isn't a place people want to come to deal and all that, to have them leave the community. I mean, obviously I don't really want people to go to Sheldon and Fairfield and other places. I mean, obviously we don't want that to happen, but our priorities protect St. Albans, in town.
So that did happen originally when we first started the street crimes unit. We had a whole bunch of arrests within the city and town. And towards the end of it, they were pushing out towards Swanton, Fairfield, Georgia, all the surrounding areas. But common theme is they were still coming to our area to still distribute. So, I mean, even though they were pushed out of the area, they still had strong ties within the area. Yeah, so we were still working those same individuals, same targets. And even though they were out there, because they're still coming to the area, still dealing what they're normally been dealing.
Like, I feel strongly that it's our obligation to fund policing services at a level that will deter drug activity, like, first and foremost. But I also feel there's a disconnect between our constituents in the town and maybe the state's attorney's office and our legislators as far as what we really think our priorities ought to be in the legislative environment regarding judiciary and corrections funding. And that stems from, Jim Hughes probably got a lot of it. It might be why he decided to retire other than age, is, you're not prosecuting enough. Well, there's a lot of reasons. I bet you if you had Graham, the state's attorney here, he would tell us to fund the street crimes unit so that he could prosecute those referrals. But what's behind the curtain that we don't see every day would stop him from being able to do his job? Does he not have enough people in his office? Are there not enough judges on the bench? Is it a limited court docket? Like, is it the judiciary broken for whatever reason?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that it's changed a lot in my life.
So
Substantial.
my mind goes to, like, we can, another 300,000, and it's 150 grand from us. That's 1.5 cents on our grand list to have a street crimes unit and deter drug crime. It makes sense as a business decision. But when we're talking about, like, governance at a statewide level, like, we don't know to sit here and say, we're funding the police, we're taxing our residents more and our businesses more to do our part. This is where the state's not holding up their end of the bargain and where we need to find relief. And then we have no, to start that conversation, to be able to say, or else. And to start driving negotiations regarding those two sources of funding for judiciary and corrections. I mean, we can throw, I think a lot of us here, kind of feel like, is it a drop in the bucket? For no, like, is the outcome not what it should be for the amount of money that we're spending? And it's no fault of yours, it's well above. It's like, how do we use this conversation around funding this portion of the work as a catalyst to start the conversation around funding and legislative changes to be able to get more convictions and stronger penalties? In all honesty, you shouldn't be caught dealing to a 19-year-old kid and get let out that afternoon because the Newton Road jail's full. Like that, and we see that, and people know that.
People do know that.
And like, and that's why when it comes to us, we're increasing our.
Grab a question.
Solve the problem for the entire area. But if we need to fund the police and the street crimes unit, whatever we need to do to fund it, because if we don't do anything, we won't get any results. You'll just continue to go down the rabbit hole. Look at Burlington, look what happened in Burlington. You start going back to funds, start losing officers. And where are they now? You can't even walk on Church Street. So it's not, we have no control over the judges. If you want to control the judges, you vote. Get people out there and vote. But what we can control is what is out of policing.
Well, we're talking about policing, and we're talking about allocating resources for policing in a positive light, but we're not talking.
But we keep going back to, well, the judges are doing this and letting them out. It's not our police officers' job to convict. They're doing the best they can.
It's part of a larger
with the
conversation.
resources they have, and that's why we need to fund that.
It's part of a circle. It's a continuous process.
It's a big circle. We don't need to get into how the judges are working, but the way the judges work is you need to vote.
That's the bottom line, and you said it here other meeting. You keep going around and around and around of all the social issues. We're not here to solve those. If we drive people to Swanton, what do you think they're gonna do when they get their police act together in a year? They're gonna be driving to St. Albans. So the officers need our support. They need to be able to get out there on the street, and we need to go to bat for state attorneys and state representatives that think like we do. And if they don't, we need to speak up and we need to say, these people don't vote for what counts. Now, money, you know why we're short here in Vermont, we're short in New York, we're short in every state. Nobody will spend the resources, take care of the people who can't take care of themselves or educate themselves or bringing in jobs. We never had. Vermont never had. We started with institutions to try and solve some of our social problems. We went to sterilization. We went to Waterbury. We had the reform school in Virginia, Brandon, Brattleboro. All these places solved. And what happened? Good ideas, not enough money to solve the problem. We're not going to solve that here. All you're being asked to do is fund the police department to protect the people who pay the taxes in this town. That's not another thing. That's it. And we'll pay the taxes.
So the only thing, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the only caveat to that is if you arrest somebody this morning, you go spend, I don't care, spend $1 million, spend 2 million, we're gonna spend 2.4, spend 3 million, doesn't matter. If you arrest a person in the morning and they're walking on the street that night,
You got it. The rest of it again.
I understand that, but they aren't, but you're not addressing the issue with.
Point on. We're not going down this route. We got, hold on, Paul, hold on. We got a lot of good questions. I'm gonna go with Jeff. I wanna hear what he has
All
to
I'm
say.
saying is that we're having a discussion about funding a special unit to do what's right for the town. But it's fair for the board to ask questions about what happens. Is it actually fixing any problem? It's a fair question. And if it's gonna be effective in changing what's going on the streets of our town. And those are all valid questions and Brendan's asked some questions and I don't think any of us want less safe streets. I don't think that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about not doing anything. That's why we're gonna put 2.4 million or whatever it's gonna be into policing the town, is because it's something that needs to be done. But we're trying to fine tune a particular problem in the town, which is drug crime. And people are frustrated, me being one of them, that criminals are viewed as victims and not as criminals in our society. And so we aren't gonna fix that with this unit. But what I'm saying is you could spend a lot of money. And if it's not spent the right way, it's gonna affect no change. And so that's all we're trying to ascertain.
Let me see, hold on, Paul, hold on, I'm losing control here, so I'm gonna bring it back, okay? Are there any, so should Jack or Jonathan, we haven't heard from you, are there any questions or anything you'd like to bring up? I would like to, see if they have any final thoughts, especially on the street crimes unit, but anything that I want to ask or?
No, I'm listening to these guys several evenings now. I got it all down.
Any other final things on the street crimes unit in particular, and then we'll see if there's any questions on any of the other parts too.
So street crimes they also dealt with the drugs, but that's not the only thing that they did. They also went after individuals that had warrants for arrest. They also assisted the road and officers in major call or case that came in, whether it be a rash of thefts from motor vehicles, or whether it be a stolen motor vehicle, or whether it be a burglary or anything like that. They assisted in that, helped gathering evidence. They had a lot of contacts in the community that assisted us in solving a lot of those crimes. So they did more than just the basic drug work. They were also out there stopping cars, just basic, simple traffic car stops, whether it be speeding or no reg or vehicles uninspected, they would do that. And that's to develop that contact and that information and everything like that to further more cases on. So it wasn't just the drugs that they attacked, but they also basically assisted the home department in general with crime. And so I have a follow-up question. Is that special unit, are those special officers or with special training, or are they like people, the individuals that would fill that role? Do they have some kind of special skill set to do that, or are they just officers that transition into? So originally they all start out as officers. Yeah. And then obviously at some point in time in your career, you start to develop, a sense of this is the direction where I want to go, and they get more specialized training. And I know in this unit, what we did was we did offer them that specialized training, whether it be how to run informants, interview and interrogation skills, cultivating informants, that type of stuff, where they were able to develop. We also had them work with, the Vermont Drug Unit, DEA, HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations, so, and ATF. So we had them working with them too, so that there was, connects with the federal agencies and also the local agencies in there.
Yes, it is, the short answer to that, it is a specialized position. And it will take a special skill set to do it, and not a lot of officers, again, speaking from my career, want to do that work. It's a select few that do, and the hours are odd, demands are high. You're dealing with people that live in that world most of your life, your day, that's your day is dealing with that. So you have to have some different patient level, and so he did 10 years, and a lot of them stay in it a long time, so they love it, but it takes that person that wants to do that work.
I asked this question in our other meetings. You guys can answer it again for the public. You're having troubles finding officers. Explain that, what your thoughts are on filling these two positions if you're still having issues trying to find full force.
So we've been very fortunate thus far, not knock on wood, right? Anything can happen, I can lose 4 officers tomorrow. I've been doing this long enough to know that can happen, but right now we're doing really well getting prepared for this contract. Speaking specifically for this unit, like I expressed all to both of you, I'm hopeful that this is a sought after unit if we advertise it. Internally first, but also externally for finding an officer that's either at the end of their career, whether it be state police, another ACS has experience here. One thing about that unit, the statewide drug unit, that's run by the state police, is a lot of troopers have gone in and out of it. Because it's not for your whole career, and a lot of municipal officers, like Lieutenant Kuchar was, spent time in it through their respective home agencies and been in and out of it. So I'm hopeful that somebody would jump over and come to us for that opportunity, just to go in it and stay in it for a while. Because I rarely in my career have I seen people go into it and hate it and get back out. Most of the time they go in it and they come out of it, they're not happy. It's just that's the way it works. There's a very short time, usually 3 to 5 years. He was kind of the exception, unless you're a supervisor in state police and staying a long time. Typically, it's a fairly short turnover for you now.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to be,
Yeah, you still street crimes unit?
yeah, no, I want to be very clear that I'm not advocating pulling funding from a police organization. Like, we just can't look at decisions like this in a vacuum. Like, we have to look at how the whole system works and getting your perspective. Getting your perspective on how that all goes down. It's really important to us because, you know, we can elect every seat that we have available to elect to us, you know, showing up to vote. They're all Republicans. But I haven't heard a single state senator or legislator from Franklin County make an articulate argument in any committee around getting funding for judiciary because the state's attorney's office and the police department said that's what's needed. So that's like, if there ever comes a light bulb above your head or an opportunity to speak with somebody who could come up with an idea, let us know, because it's our job to operate as a political arm for the town to see through changes that affect us on the municipal side, which is, this would be one.
I appreciate your support, and I can just say from my sitting here, I've worked in 3 counties in my career, but recently, most of it, so I have not had a bad experience with this office, this state officer. Graham is new, the meetings we've had have been good, and he is leading us through this, he's going to be very aggressive with the case, and he has specifically spoken about drugs. Beyond that, I'm as frustrated as any other monitor, but my job is very narrow.
Yep, we respect that. So if you ever hear us criticizing any type of a system, it's a systemic problem that's not rooted in your office or your officers.
I think that'll do it for street crimes unit. I don't know if there's any questions on, the dispatch department. I know you guys can talk about how it operates if you want. One concern that I know I brought back and we've all discussed a little bit is the budget deficit, specifically in the dispatch part being, negative 600 some odd thousand. Now there is some offsetting pieces to our dispatch that we're already paying that we no longer will need to, so that will be helpful with that from the town's point of view. But I don't know if there's any information you want to share just briefly about the dispatch. I know there's the one in St. Albans, the street on Main Street here is one of just a handful, right? One of just a few that's in the state. If you can talk a little bit about that, maybe just briefly, it doesn't have to be super detailed, and then see if anyone's got any questions here.
So our dispatch center is one of 6 PSAP centers in the state of Vermont. We handle basically all of Franklin County for fire, EMS, and police, minus a police department and 1 ambulance. In Franklin County, we also dispatch for fire, EMS, and police for 1 agency in Chittenden County. We receive approximately 180,000 calls a year. And that goes with phone calls, cases, and also 911 calls involved in that. Currently, I think right now we have 11 dispatchers.
10 dispatchers and
a supervisor included in that. And then we have 2 part-time dispatchers that are per diem that come in and work at least 1 shift a month.
So one thing to remember with PSAPs, the points point of service answering, or answering points. Is that, the way it works is if you call 911 from your house. It tries to go to the nearest PSAP, which is us for Frank County, but if we're tied up, how many seconds is it?
It's
short.
very short.
It's like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
If nobody answers, it goes to the next available PSAP operator. It could be anywhere in the state of those 6 answering points.
Sure.
So we get a lot of our calls, like, originate out of the southern part of the state for whatever reason. We seem to get hammered by the Springfield area for 911 calls. So that's where it goes. So then our call get bumped somewhere else. So we call them right next door from PD thinking you're getting us. And you may be talking to somebody in Hartford or Westminster or Williston, one of the other PSAP. Then they transfer it up to us. So that's why PSAP is set up. If somebody calls the inside line for us or any of the PD, the cover goes directly to us. Dispatch. It's interesting setup.
So that's like nearly 500 calls a day.
Yeah, that's probably what comes out to 180,000. It's a lot of calls.
It is a lot of calls.
We always invite fire and EMS, who pays us to see it, so they know what they're paying for. But any of you, I always tell people, walk through, sit down there for 30 minutes and see what it's like, because it's mind-boggling to me. How they multitask with what's going on, and then you've got a window that never stops, meaning the people walk in, it never stops. And officers will never stop asking for something. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, Jack and I had a chance to go through, and it's, how many monitors did each person have? 3, 4, 6?
They're watching 6 monitors.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy what they're doing.
I was, like I said to 2 people, I did 21 years in BSB as well. And I probably walked in dispatch like twice in my 20, and I had no idea dispatch, no idea. I just know I call the radio things. When I got to the St. Albans Police Department, walked in there, I was, well, I think actually, so now I go to dispatch at least twice a day.
So can you explain a little bit about the deficit? Like why don't you just charge what it costs?
I can speak in layman's terms because to be
Yeah.
honest with you, that's Sarah's
That's
thing
fine.
as far as the money thing, but I can speak from layman's terms. So every select board is just like this, and every town is just like this. And I'm not giving you a hard time, but you have more money than some select boards in some towns because you have bigger population, right? So when I came here in 2019, I left the state police in 2019, August and September, I started here for the PD. I started as a dispatch director. That was my job. I wasn't here to be a chief. And I came because they were growing dispatch. Gary Taylor wanted somebody to kind of take over for that. I had nothing about dispatch. I wasn't here a month. He's like, we're gonna up the prices for all these towns considerably. It was like 25%. That was my walk through the door. So I went and sat down with every select board in the county, told them that even the smallest towns, like Fletcher, small tax base, was getting jumped up by that much money. And so your question, why don't we just raise the price more? Because it's a lot to ask of smaller, every town. But when you're talking towns that a fire department gets 30 calls a year, and you're asking them to pay a lot more than they do, it's just a lot of money to ask for what they get. Because that's how it's some of those that have just a fire department and they don't use the service, a lot of it, they're paying for insurance to have some. That's what it really is. So you're asking for a large jump for some of these towns. If we go a lot higher, that's the bottom line. There's at some point, even though they may not have a lot of choice in where they go because there's not a lot of pace of dispatching in this. Right. You have to think about what's best for them, what they can really afford. I mean, I've done some work for my whole time in the state, because that was my job. You have relationships with them, you understand where they come from, and they're debating buying another truck, and that's a big deal. And you're going to have to pay a lot more for dispatch services, but they don't use a lot of it.
Yeah, we talked the other night. There's was it Shelburne that does it for free for the island?
No,
It's
VSP does it.
Okay.
VSP does it free for currently for the Grand Isle Sheriffs and Swan Village PD. They have forever. That's just whatever handshake deal was made 30 years ago, where it was.
But there's a little competitiveness for some towns to take.
Absolutely. So Shelburne PD does the rest of the rescue agency. They do the rest of Grand Isle, Fire and North Road Fire. Shelburne does all of that. That is correct. At what cost, I don't know.
That was my question.
So I suspect it's cheaper than us. Yeah.
Are the other ones operating at a loss as well?
That's what it sounded like, right?
My guess is they're charging less for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm just going with
Is it not a public service though? Why wouldn't?
That's what I asked, why the state doesn't. fit.
Yeah.
So Ken Kuchar could probably speak a little bit more on this, because we thought we were getting money from the state. We thought there was gonna be a grant when the state police started shuffling out of this business and cutting off some people. agencies saying we're no longer dispatching for you, you get the last year, whatever the date originally was. There was gonna be a pool of money we could all get into. We were told we could get some of this money to improve our abilities. We were all set to get money, we bought stuff for the money, and then we were told, yes. So where that money went, I can't tell you, but it didn't go to us or anybody else that was on that list. There's like 10 of us on that list.
10, yeah.
That were but we're told we're getting a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, we're getting over 650,000.
And it was gone. So it is what it is. That's a tower we're building out there. That's gonna help people that part of the tower, but it's fine. But the state was gonna shuffle out some money for some of these smaller PDs, they're not PDs, areas to get dispatch up and running. Because when they stopped dispatching, if they didn't go through with that, there was gonna be some places that had no other option but to either hire somebody like us or another area or start something. So, but once we continue with our project, you're already deep in it.
I wonder if there are any federal funds that we could access. It just seems like.
Gotta be, I mean, that's. the
Like,
thing. It's gotta be.
we come into it with like having not been in this world.
Yep.
Like the police contract side of it was always policing services, dispatch was just a number we got in the mail. And I were like, we're proposing to split a $635,000 and change operational loss out of the dispatch department. $325,000 aside or whatever it works out to be. Like, you would think the state, if there's only six
PSAP centers, that's 911, there's other dispatches that.
Well, you think if you're a
dispatch
PSAP center and you're subsidizing every contract you have effectively, because if you're operating at a loss, every contract's at a loss, basically. You would think they would have to come in, there would be some state or federal law that doesn't exist. That would just say,
I don't know what costs somewhere, I think I didn't hear, I think what Don was getting at last meeting that other PDs that don't dispatch for anybody else, just themselves, and what it costs them, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think, just higher than dispatch. And the equipment, it's Pillsbury, he's in charge of all the IT stuff, it's ridiculous. And our storage alone is, or not our storage, but our system to keep the dispatch running, redundancies are, 50, 60 million a year, more than that's on your budget. Crazy.
you would think there'd be some kind of gap funding.
Yeah.
Like some pool of money that paid anybody that's a PSAP center.
Yeah, and I think,
Just so I understand,
Jack.
because I'm simple-minded, is there a way that someone wouldn't have 911 coverage, like if they didn't pay?
No, 911 is covered by, is a state offered entity, it's state offered service. So we are paid by the state to carry 911, to offer
Okay.
911.
All right.
And it's like, I think yours is 96,000, maybe it's not here, based on the non-calls we take. And again, there's 6 in the state that do it, 4 private, like us, Hartford, Shelburne, and Moyle. The other 2 are state police owned.
Okay.
Those are 6 PSAP points. And
But
they're all getting money out of the state.
I was just thinking how silly it would be that they went through all that E911 addressing and then they wouldn't bother to make sure that people call.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
911 will always be stood up, I mean, if one of the 6 of us was to close. It would
Right.
just get divvied to another one of them, and you have to hire whatever you do, because it's crazy. So,
Interesting.
but how they chose those 6, I don't know how that was way before probably me.
It was even before my
I
time.
don't know how we got split together, 911. I don't know how that was done way back when. But I can tell you it gives a very, solid and important peace of mind to the dispatch work. Because most calls do come to us directly rather than get rerouted to Brattleboro or wherever. They come here directly, so it does cut out that middle person, because otherwise if you live, let's say that the place that doesn't have their own 911 like us, it does go to another area, they have to transfer it, there's that delay. You don't have that, it's much quicker. And you tend to have people that when they work in PSAP center, just like any other dispatch, so they tend to know the area a little bit. So when somebody doesn't really know where they live, because believe it or not, that happens. Somebody says, that intersection of what Gallagher's Point. Most of our dispatchers know Gallagher's Point. You take a 911 answering person out of West, yeah, no idea. So it's important.
Yeah, and did if I remember correctly, at the meeting, I think I asked a little bit about the dispatch, and you say, I mean, if a call, if we didn't have our dispatch unit here and every call went to Lamoille or Sheldon or Springfield or wherever, how much time does that add, or would it add to them contacting the ambulance, for example, in say a heart attack situation?
Well, it depends. There's a certain, I don't know the exact
Yeah,
time,
I don't know.
but there's certain cards that the 911 operators have to read. And they have to go through those cards to determine exactly what the response would be. once they figure out what that is, they then notify whatever area agency, the call's coming from.
And they've got to answer their call.
And then they end up dispatching them to that call. Only when, you know, because the 911 operator will only take the 911 call. They will then transfer it to another dispatch center that dispatches for that ambulance or rescue that needs to respond, or fire that needs to respond to that. So there is a delay.
So I guess just bottom line question, maybe to make myself feel better or not, but us having a dispatch center and it, you know, it's in the red. Does that in general give us a little bit better service? This is what I'm asking, than if we did.
I would say a faster response. Yes.
If nothing else. If nothing else for ease of understanding is if we have multiple dispatchers in the room, we all do work at the same time. If somebody's taking a 911 call, another person in that room is hearing that, that's the way it works. You're sitting less than usually less.
Small room.
And they're hearing that 911 call, fire or bad accident, which is two of the worst things that can happen unless it's police related bad incident. And they are automatically jumped in to assist with getting the next set of resources rolling, as opposed to going to another town that's 30, 60, 100 miles away. That has to, no matter what they want, they can't do two things at once because they don't know. So they don't even know the name of the rescue service. So they now go transfer it up here and that process starts there.
And that other dispatcher, I would imagine, it just said you're saying that could be getting an idea of what's going on, and a second call came in.
It's just like, him and I spend a lot of time at dispatch, neither one of us are dispatch. But part of our job is to oversee the dispatch. So we spend a lot of time to get a kind of an idea of how to do for the day, what's going on in the county in general. And we even pick up on how bad things are, can offer a little bit of sense of the phone, because that's just the way it is. So it is important, and my ears perk up, I hear something bad from the first thing I say, or look at the screen, because it pops up in 911 where your cell phone rang or your house phone rang. It pops up right off. And the first thing I do when I can tell it's bad is where it's not my area, to be honest with you, I don't care. I have enough in my area to worry about it. It's my area, then I care, then I'll be automatically, I may even start texting the officer saying, you need to start sliding this way before they even dispatch, you know, so. It's nice to have that local, and the other dispatcher, the same exact thing. So.
Yeah,
I didn't know any of this 4 years.
No, it makes, I didn't either, so I mean, just walking through and talking with you guys.
there are times where those hot calls come in, and one dispatcher will point to their screen to the other dispatcher, and they'll get units rolling, especially if it looks like it's a police department issue. And then they get updated as they're responding by either the one taking the 911 call or the other one that's assisting and helping dispatch.
They know the drill.
You know, we have, again, I mean, it could change tonight, but we have a pretty good crew right now. It's taken us 4 years to get to where we are. We're there.
Any other questions on dispatch from here? Then we'll go to Al. No, Al, go ahead.
Where is, if I call at midnight and use the 524 number, where does that end? Whose answers that?
That it's inside line, so it goes right to our dispatch.
So is not a quicker way to get, not go through the PSAP system?
That is, yep. I mean, people are trained 911.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Well, unless,
It goes right to the department where
Right.
the dispatcher will answer.
Right, because they're gonna answer 911 first.
Okay,
yeah, so the only part where that doesn't work, they've got two dispatchers and you're already under the calls.
Right, 911's gonna take priority over that, because that's non-emergency line.
And what are the odds, but also like, they could be on two 911 calls from Hartford.
Or our area. So, I mean, I got a great thing to think about is I didn't know, or I should know, but I didn't think it was that bad. If you get one car that goes off in the interstate, one car around exit 17, where there's 1,000 cars in every hour, you'll get 25, 30 calls on that same car for 911. It never stops. It's just the way it is. So nobody is, I'm not blaming anybody, it's people doing the right thing and calling in, because they have no idea, you call, but that car, one car will cause so many calls, it ties up the entire system. This is what it is. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. Nobody has any idea that I called them 25 times a lot.
Same thing with power outages.
Same with everything. It's just, so now you make that worse and throw a snowstorm in and between exit 12 and exit 16, and it's out of control. So our dispatch, the phone will not stop if you, and it passes. It won't stop.
I bet.
Even a windstorm.
Even when the more winds.
Any other questions I didn't deal with the police budget or the police department? Folks here? Thank you both for coming down.
It was good of you to come because we come back from our meetings and talk to these guys that were there and try to explain stuff. You guys do a much better job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. See, and then we'll turn over here to the town manager's report. I think it's a very short one tonight.
Yep, just informational Act 250.
Yep. Do you need to mention it or it's?
The Westview condominium development. By Mr. Goodrich.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, chair's report, just a couple of things tonight. I'm just gonna get my computer back up here. Last meeting we had, see, there we go. Right around the same time we were meeting at our last regular board meeting on November 6th, the fire department was meeting and choosing new officers, and it was the first time in a long time that Chief Cross was not up for fire chief. And again, I know we've thanked him before, but obviously thank Bob Cross for all of his 47 years to the fire department in one way or another. I don't know how many as chief, but it's been quite a while. And just wanted to announce, I thought it was kind of cool. We got Matt Mulheron, if you didn't know, is the new fire chief for St. Albans Town. And along with him moving up, we have David Brady is the new assistant fire chief, and Homer Hungerford is one of the new captains, or he is the new captain, one of three. And so just wanted to congratulate all four of them, really, all four of those guys. So had that with the fire department. We had November 11th, we did have this Veterans Day gathering in the park, as there is every year. So depending on if it's during the week, there's 2,000 people, and if it's on the weekend, it gets cut down because I guess the kids aren't made to go, even though they go and they do a great job every year that I've been there when the kids are there. Sean went and represented the town of St. Albans. I think he sat next to Senator Sanders.
Froze my butt off.
And all that stuff. Yeah, it was full.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Sean for representing St. Albans with that. November 17th, we had the Holly Jolly Jamboree, which I think you mentioned last time before it happened that was coming up.
We had a great
So
turnout.
that went pretty well, I think. As well.
Yeah, we ran out of hot chocolate and just about all the toys for the kids, but we didn't run out of toys. But yeah, Santa Claus was there. So
I did see,
yeah.
I did see pictures.
No, it honestly exceeded expectations. It was great. Yeah.
Is this the first year we've had that, or is
Second or third.
second or third?
But yeah, you could think they've done it on Black Friday before, or we've done it on Black Friday. So I moved it up and lit the tree, and a lot of people were actually like the date change on it this year.
That's awesome.
It was good.
That's awesome.
My wife and kid attended. I have
Oh, really?
two really cool pictures on my fridge that he colored as part of like an organized color.
Yeah. His
He
face
was-
painting.
He's only 2. He was too afraid of Santa to go see him, but he looked at him from across the room, kind of gave him the evil eye.
Thank you. Yep, awesome. That's really good. Yeah, it was my dad's birthday, so I went and saw him on his
I think
birthday.
next year you have to buy Sean a pair of mittens.
I'm sorry, Al.
I
I
was
said,
told-
next year you have to buy.
I did actually. I did ask for it.
There
I made a
is-
joke.
Bernie
him.
minutes, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's,
I'll just
kind of referring.
dress more warmly next time.
You ain't in Virginia no more.
I'll tell you
Well,
what.
I'll tell you, the year before, Sean, when I had gone, I mean, I think it was 70 degrees out. It was November, right? In November in Vermont. I never mind.
-40.
Yeah, so I think that's it for me. Is there any other business from any other board members?
No.
All right, then, schedule, we've got Monday, December 4th and Monday, December 18th. The next regular board meetings, we may have another budget work session, I believe, but December 4th, I think Dave Allerton's gonna come back, updates with stormwater and at least with the budget, vis-a-vis what could be moved to the stormwater budget and what should stay in the general budget, the general fund budget. And we do have another joint police board meeting, and that I believe is December 6th, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's it there. If nothing else, I'll ask someone for a motion to go
The
into
5th.
exec. The 5th?
Yeah.
Sorry, December 5th, sorry. we'll ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter. Where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. What further ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a contractual matter under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes to invite Town Manager Sean Atkins and Interim Director of Operations Al Woodville.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye, thank you. All right, thanks for
You
coming.
guys, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Don't eat too much.
Thank you.